The series begins with two child sisters, one named Fee and the other named Powder. They lose their families in a war that destroys the city called Topher. A person named Vander is transferred, and they are raised in a poor place full of thieves called the Lower City. As the years pass, the two girls grow up and return to the city to steal it with two of their friends, one named Milo and the other named. All of them are on the roof of the house, except for Powder, who is afraid, so she will be Powder, but you catch her in it before she falls from the building because she jumped, which was not of any kind, and they keep walking cautiously, fearing that someone from the police will see them. They go to the balcony of a house and enter, and the group starts looking for the things they can steal from the place, and asks for a Powder to look for the things they can steal. It turns out to be expensive and important, and when you enter the room, you find a box with a group of blue balls inside it. Al-Jawahir then grabbed one of them and looked at her with astonishment. She began to take them all before she left the place, after one of them tried to enter the room on them. The whole group ran away, and he threw a ball of powder at them, so she decided to blow up the place, and part of the building was bloodied. The group ran one by one into the street and tried to evade the policemen who were chasing them. They entered the sewer pipe with the skullcaps of two homeless thieves in it, because they want to share with them. The spoils they stole from the city, but Fee and her friends fight with the homeless people and beat him, except for Powder, who runs away with the bag in which the spoils are. One of the homeless runs after her, and she tries to hide from him and throws the bag in the water. The homeless man runs after the bag, and Powder returns to Levi, and the rest of them are annoyed by the weakness of Powder and Cheese. She stops fighting with her sister and tells Butter, "The most important thing is that she is fine, even if all their loot is lost." Milo says that Powder will ruin any mission she goes with them on, but Philly strengthens the group, and the strongest of them all is that he remains silent. In the lower city, which is all thieves and thugs, a person named Hogg appears, negotiating with two others about selling stolen goods, and Vander, the leader of the thieves, enters. It is famous in the place that people threatened to kill Huck if he did not accept they make their deal, and Vander asks them to treat Huck with respect. She arrives at her group, which asks them not to tell them about what happened to Vander, their leader. Vander enters and quarrels with them because they went to the city of the forbidden property and tried to rob it and blew up a building. She tells him that she had the idea and she was the one who took the rest of the team and convinced him, and started arguing. I agree with Vander because she believes that availability is full of options that are better than anything else. A second place they are accustomed to stealing, and Vander tells the whole team to go out, with the exception of the one who tells her that she is the leader of an entire team and she cannot be selfish, and she must remain responsible and not expose them to danger. Vander asks whoever is there to hide her in the group for a few days until the police calm down so that they are not arrested, and Vander leaves. The room asks Lager to walk with him and tell him exactly what happened. At this time, Powder discovers the presence of one of the blue balls that was in the room. He brings her the house they stole, so she runs to her sister, but she finds her talking to Milo, who tells her that Powder always makes mistakes, and her mistake costs a lot, like the loss of what was stolen from him today, which was the biggest spoils they were able to make in their lives. So she tells him that Powder is small and it's normal for her to make mistakes. So Fiber approaches her, and Milo tells her that this is not justified because in her mind she was younger than her when she was half her age, and she tells him that if he makes a mistake, he also makes a mistake, and this is when he keeps talking a lot and gets into trouble because of his excessive boasting, like today when he bragged in front of the homeless about his spoils and they coveted it and entered into betrayal because of him. On the other hand, he goes to his friend Benzo, who sells stolen goods to him, and complains and tells him what happened to them. So he says, Benzo, that this is normal because the children have grown and their aspirations have increased, but it is rare for them to say that those who are worried that someone is fighting with them, and the best of them was a resident of the lower city, and Benzo's assistant, the young child of Kajar, comes out to talk to him and asks him to tell him what happened with them in Belt Over and Pure. He has moves that I taught him so that he will know how to defend himself if he gets into a fight. The policemen arrive and ask for Benzo's assistant from Lager, who runs quickly and hides from them. The policemen enter Benzo and Wanda, and one of them, her name, speaks. Grayson and Vander, if they had an agreement, would keep his clan away from the city for the sake of availability, and for his part, he would not get close to them and would leave them alone. But what the boys did for his part left him in an embarrassing situation, and someone must provide a scapegoat so that the city would calm down and not feel threatened and afraid. That is why he asked him to hand over someone. One of the boys who carried out the operation, but Vander refuses to confess to any of them, and Benzo's assistant watches what is happening. He has a magic eye and hears all the words that go on. Powder sits in her room, practicing her favorite hobby of making bombs out of nails. You enter on her, you find her sad, and Powder tells her that she will never know how to be a fighter like them, but she tells her that she doesn't have to be like them because she has the muscles, but Powder has the brain. The smart one tells her that Powder has never known how to do anything successful with her nail bombs, so he leaves her alone and tells her, One day I invented it, it will succeed, and it will take you to the roof of a building, and it will take you to the place where the police were chasing Logger before his leg got stuck between two woods, and Vander found him and saved him, and the place where he was about to fall while he was trying to draw on the wall, and Vander saved him, and the place where she lost her bride and was hung on a wire, electricity, and it comes every time you sit and see it from afar and wish for any wind to move it and knock it down and say an elephant. Powder says that all people go through difficult days, not just her, and that this is normal and that this makes them learn and hold on to each other more. Powder shows her sister the colored stones that she found in the house that they stole, and asks her to keep this matter a secret between them and tells her that she is strong, stronger than she imagines, and do not believe what she says. What they said about her, and one day the whole city knows their value and respects them, and the person who attacked her and her group appears and he is punished by, he asks him to watch them and fights with the boy. He says that he did not ask him to fight and he just wanted to watch them. A scientist appears with them conducting an experiment on a different scale. The mouse drinks a strange liquid that turns it into a monster. The scientist asks for a human sample to conduct the experiment on, and Jess, the person whose house was broken into, appears. Who was in it, and her group as he fell on the ground when his house exploded and destroyed him, and his memories of when he was a small child disappeared. His mother dies from him in a snowstorm, and a strange person appears to him and takes him into a black hole. When the child rises, he finds himself in a completely different place, all green and plants. His mother excels and holds Jess when he sees her alive again, and the stranger gives him the blue balls that I found in the house, and the police come to investigate, and Bev Jess stopped and the officers started questioning him because he found a lot of illegal equipment and scientific experiments in his house. Listed without the Academy's approval or permits, the officer asks Jess who authorized his research, so he says that it is a self-research. Then the assistant dean of the Scientific Academy enters and tells Jess that the dean, who is at the same time the president of the Council of State, asked him to come to the place and investigate what happened, and Jess is arrested and imprisoned. Jess is imprisoned by a scientist named Heimerdinger, and they say that he knows, and they know that he has an amazing mentality, but science cannot be used in something that harms people, so he tells Jess that his research was able to find a way to harness magic with the help of science. So Heimerdinger tells him that this is illogical, and that he has spent his entire life pursuing scientific mysteries, but he discovered that there are things that must remain mysterious and that we should not approach them because they are dangerous. And he asks him to, he admits to the court that he made a mistake and does not talk about the subject of magic at all, and then he will be able to receive a minor punishment, and Kanan will be used under. The ground is because the police are looking for them everywhere and are trying to find people, but the police reach them and they are trying to escape from it. On the other hand, an advisor in the state council appears and she is talking to her assistants and says that she wants a new invention that will put the city on the map and distinguish it. She asks about his trial today, and he tells her that he is a person. His name is Jess, a scientist and inventor, and his family is famous for their genius inventions, and the scientist Heimerdinger loves him. At this time, the residents of the lower city are suffocating with Vander, and they tell him that they must respond to the attack that happened to them from the police, so he prefers those who crossed the Beltoff Bridge, and how it ended in a huge war in which they lost a lot. But the residents of the city tell him that he is trying to protect his children and is afraid for them. Nothing more than that. Some of them say that he is surprised that the one who built the lower city is rarely afraid to fight, so he tells them that he is trying to carry everything and that he is not. He is afraid of something, and he goes to Ecom and helps Benzo Alfie, and he tells her what he heard between Shorty and Fendi, and the trial of Jess begins from the city council on charges of conducting illegal experiments and endangering the city's availability. Jays was sold by mistake, and that he did not know the danger of the materials he was using. He asked for a pardon and that he complete his academic studies, but the city council disagrees. Jess's evaluation is between supporter and opposition, and she asks the president of the court about. As a result of his experiments, he says that he has not achieved anything, but after he hears what they say about him and take them to him, he tells them that he uses magic through science to serve the community, but the council objects to the matter and says that the curse of their city came because of the use of magic and that this is unacceptable, but Jace tells them that they are the kings of science and can use magic. Through him, if they stop fear, but Hammer danger objects and tells him that magic has destroyed many civilizations because it fell into their hands. The mistake is that he will not be allowed in their city, which was established to keep it away from the desert wars, not to develop it. And Jess's father enters the court and asks them to speak and says that her son is mentally unsound and that she is discriminating against her. So the council decided after voting that Jess should be expelled from the academy and that he should stay at home under the care of his family when he leaves. Jess sits sad because his mother, who was saved by magic, did not try to support him in court. His mother defends herself and tells him that magic saved her, but he will not be able to save him in front of the court. The dean of the academy, Heimerdinger, speaks with his assistant, who is fascinated by Jess's research, and the dean says that this research is nonsense and it is impossible to control magic, and that they will get rid of the research permanently because talking is dangerous and shows fraud. The one who goes to the police officer who is looking for her group's video, and they say that he will be able to help him in his mission. He then goes to his house where he is conducting scientific experiments with another scientist and talks to the person who sold him and Rafi and who is with her to watch them, and tells him that he was able to invent powerful monsters, and no one knows anything about them, by using a certain substance, and asks him to drink this substance so that he can remain strong and know how to control the world with just one stroke. When a person drinks the substance, he turns into a monster, and Jess goes to meet his friend Caitlin, the daughter of one of the city council members, and she tells him that her family refuses to let her talk to him, and they say he is outcast and crazy. The mother goes out and calls on Caitlin to enter the house and sends her Jess. The mother asks him to stay away from them and gather the heads and counselors of the city council with the police officers. He assures them that they are doing everything they can to deal with the case so that they can find the person who is trying to steal Jess and enter. The police find Vander in his restaurant and keep looking for Vio, the one with her and the ones who were hidden in the warehouse, and the policeman couldn't deceive him, and he gets annoyed and walks away after he threatens her that they won't be silent. She fights with Vander after she learns that he is getting back with the police after everything they are doing to them. So Vander tells her that the anger she feels has taken a long time to make a decision that made him lose. Many people, including her family, would have preferred to fight for their livelihood, and if he had not done so, their people would have preferred to live. Therefore, if she thinks about fighting people for the sake of availability, she will also lose people she loves, just as he lost. He says no one wins from wars. He will try to find an alternative solution, and the assistant dean of the academy, whose name is Victor, goes to Jesse. He expresses his admiration for his idea and says that he feels it and the lack of people's appreciation for his idea, because he went through the same experience after he was a resident of the underworld and was available, and no one appreciated him, and they treated him as if he was less important than them, but he was safe. With his own abilities, until he reached the position he is in, he asks him to complete his research and not wait for anyone to believe in him. She interjects with her sister Powder, who tells her that she made nail bombs and smoke bombs in order to confront the police with them. She feels that this time they will work and she will succeed, and Grayson fights with her colleague who was about to cut her off. From the lower city, without saying anything to her and explaining to him that the people of the lower city will certainly respond to this matter, they read that he sent Grace a letter telling her of his decision, and he goes to lock her up inside his room after asking her to take care of the rest, and he tells her that he is proud of her, and she does not understand what is happening, and the policemen come to take Fender, and Grayson first requests the arrest of Fender, who contributes to maintaining the balance between the lower city. It is better, but Vander assures him that his friend Benzo will suddenly be able to take over the leadership after him. Selko enters, kills Grayson, harasses the second officer, and tells Selko that this was not an agreement together, so Selko attacks him and tells him that the agreement has changed, and throws money to him on the ground, and makes his monster, who was originally a human, hit Vander, sing about him, and take him with him, and Vita sits in the room crying after she saw what happened. He came out of the window and Echo entered and cried in her arms and told her that he saw everything that happened and would come back. Jess for his scientific experiments with Victor, who tells him that his research will be destroyed. Pure Jess. And Victor tells him that they need conclusive proof of the results of his research, his equations, and his theory in order to convince the city council of him. He takes Silco Vander to his house, where he brings large quantities of liquid that creates monsters, and says that violence is the method. He is the only one to win the conflict between the two lower cities, and with his luck, he will not win the war against Topher. Even with his monsters, he tells Selko that he is not interested in winning. It is enough for him that he will scare me and make them approach the lower city again. Vander tells Selko that he will kill many people because of his pride and arrogance, but Silco accuses Vander of treason because he made reconciliation and an agreement with the people of Beltover and forgot everything they had done to them. At this time, Hector and Jess go to the Academy Dean's office to steal the research. She holds an advisor from the Director's Council who is willing to take risks for their research and research that will change the world, so they have one night to impress her with the results and who she will report to the State Council. Phil goes to her group and tells them that Benzo has been killed and Wanda has been kidnapped and she must go rescue him. They decide to join her, but she refuses for Powder to participate with them because I was not prepared, especially since I had not seen the monster that killed Benzo. Like it before, her sister is starting to use a tool that if she holds it in the air, she will be able to see it and come to her rescue. If she has any problem, she will leave and go out with the rest. Victor and Jess begin their experiment to control the colored stone inside the Dean of the Academy's laboratory at the time when Powder was sitting in it, crying and collapsed from her weakness and cowardice, and she goes out. Colored balls from her bag, so she came up with an idea to help her sister and the others with her. At that time, she and her friends enter the old warehouse where Vander is engaged, and they reach him and they try to untie him from the chains, but a wire and his followers appear, and she tries to confront them, and Powder goes to the warehouse, and she finds her sister fighting to follow a wire, and he succeeds in undoing Vander's chains, and he drinks the strange substance with his wire that turns him into a monster, and he finds something wrong with him. She sees her sister's powder, which the monster caught and threw away. Jess and Victor's experiment succeeds, and the dean enters to them and explains that they have succeeded in their experiment, and the counselor asks him to acknowledge their success and let them continue. At this time, she puts colored stone powder in a bomb and enters the warehouse and thinks about the place, but his wire gets up and asks his monster to kill Vander and his followers, but Vander gets up and he confronts the monster and then confronts his brother, but he cannot kill him because he is his brother and he only loves him. He throws a wire from above and it turns out loud. Vander tries to reach the liquid before the monster catches him, and they drink. He also turns into a monster and goes to the circus, which he is afraid of. But Vander decides to take it and goes outside the warehouse before the fire reaches it. He asks Vander to take her mind off Powder and then die, and Powder enters on it. Her sister tells her that she is happy because her bomb finally worked and succeeded, but she is shocked at her and tells her that I asked her to go away, and Milo was right when he said that she was bad and that she was the cause of all these misfortunes and always gave Powder, and he told her that she wanted to help her and save them, and it was not her intention to cause Maud Vander, and he inserted a cable into Powder, and he found her crying alone after she had left and sat alone far away, and he chose a police officer. He stops Silk and his followers in front of Budar and asks about Fee, and she tells him that she left her, and she walked away and she was not recognized as a sister, that's it. So it's okay for her to be a wire, and they read her name to his team. And with Jess, when he learns from the dean of the academy that he has been chosen to deliver a speech in a huge celebration called Progress Day, which is held every year, even though this speech was always given to an uncle, and they tell the dean that he deserves this honor because it is legitimate. Whoever called it high stakes succeeded and was able to attract scientists from all over the world and make their city have a name. He has a prestigious scientific position, and Jess tells him that he is preparing a big surprise with Victor that will amaze the dean and the people at the party. The celebration of the Day of Progress begins, and he shows the people their inventions and discoveries to the people. Applejess is accompanied by his friend Caitlin, and he says that he will give the main speech at the celebration, and he asks her to attend it, and the ship is attacked by a gang wearing masks and comes out. They have Powder, and she fills the place with her bombs and confronts one of the gangs with my weapons, who developed it herself, and the dean enters Jess and Victor's laboratory and watches the magic crystals that they were able to control, fold, and fortify, and therefore no one can use them for destruction, and it will remain very safe and they will be able to use it to supply anything with energy. And Jess and Victor present devices that have been charged with magic crystals, despite the dean showing his admiration for these achievements. But he refuses to use it for the general public at the present time and tells them that this is necessary. Another 10 years to prevent people from using technology in a bad way and entering the ship that was attacked in order to investigate the incident, because she works as a policewoman and tries to imagine the events and locate the crime scene. She finds someone from the lower city imprisoned on the ship, and he tells her that he did nothing, and she tries to find out from him who did it. Like this, but a police officer enters her and tells her that her presence here is not important to her and that her mission is protecting her mother's tent at the festival. She tells him that her mother does not need guards, but the officer asks her to respect the work and do her job only. And Silco, who is responsible for the smuggling problem, appears and his belongings will be renewed because she accused Powder of being the reason for the failure of the mission. But Silco tells her that she is the first responsible person before him, so she smiles outside the office. Then Apple Silco Powder became called Jinx after he adopted her and told her that she needs time to rest so that what happened in the last mission does not happen again. And he loses a lot of work, so Jinx tells him that she does not need a vacation, but Silco gives her a hand to calm her nerves, and Jinx sits to herself, and she is upset by Silco's words that make her feel weak, and she knocks to prove to him the opposite, and Jess goes to the counselor, the one who helped him with the experiment in the past, and he tells her what happened from the dean and his disapproval of the new project to use the computer. The magician tells him that this is the most important time in which they can present all their new ideas, and he can't wait. She tells him that the dean is an old man with old ideas. She says that the academy needs someone new to take them. She advises him to say in his speech his ideas about the future and impress people so that he can stay in his place and achieve his dreams of changing the world. For the better and implement his ideas, Jess goes to the podium and gives his speech, and they read what happened. On the subject of the magic crystal, he promised people that he would surprise you with something that would change the world, so you began to stand the chancellor not talking about the new project openly, and you left the place and walked while the policeman looked at him because he had not presented anything new at the festival. Suddenly a fire broke out in the place and the policeman ran to try to extinguish it, and the voice of a child was heard calling for help. They write that it was Jinx, and she started the fire, and Jess's research team carried out with the magic crystal, and they say the state council said that they neglected the lower city and were preoccupied with it, and the situation remained bad, and they were destined to return to creating chaos and stealing, and Beta Sarek, the advisor, Medred Bit, suggested that they provide a seat in the state council, after he declared his complete loyalty to the country to the point that he offered to stop all activities related to his project in order to preserve the safety of the country and the people. Until the one who stole the research and the magic crystal catches him and fights Selko with him. After learning that she blew up a building and caused the death of 6 police officers, Jinx showed him the magic crystal that she had stolen from Jess's lab. She told him Happy Progress Day, and it came, and Jess went to meet his friend Caitlin, who was busy tying the strings together and finding out who was causing all the problems. It happens in the city, and an advisor in the state council becomes philosophizing and offers her to join his team and remain responsible for its security and protection. Caitlin responded and told him that this was an honorary position and she would remain imprisoned in an office, and the job would be removed. Wait for the summary of the second part of the series so that we can complete the events for you.